Welcome to Common Sense Wellness with Dr. Gary Martin, the show that helps you take control of your health with clarity, confidence, and practical wisdom. Dr. Gary Martin has spent decades in clinical practice and natural wellness research, discovering that the key to lifelong vitality lies in understanding the body's signals before they become symptoms. Each week, we will explore simple science-backed methods like mineral testing, facial scans, and lifestyle adjustments that help you restore balance from the inside out. You'll also hear from expert guests and real clients who have turned their health challenges into stories of transformation. No gimmicks, no fads, just common sense wellness that works. Now, here's your host, Dr. Gary Martin.
Okay, another episode of Common Sense Wellness. Welcome. I'm Dr. Gary Martin, and for over 50 years, I've helped people understand their health through testing, practical wellness strategies, and holistic approaches. On this show, we explore simple, actionable ways to restore balance, boost energy, and thrive. And today, I'm honored to be joined by Mikayla Mersereau, almost got it right.
You got it.
An integrative health practitioner, an eCornell certified nutritionist, and founder of Modern Holistic Wellness. After more than 16 years of working behind the scenes in emergency medicine and trauma care, Mikayla made a bold pivot. Like a lot of people, I was not one of them. I just kind of came into here realizing that there had to be a better way than treating symptoms. Anyway, Mikayla made a bold pivot. She left conventional healthcare to pursue a root cause approach to healing. And she now works virtually with women across the country, helping busy moms and high-achieving women reclaim their energy, balance their hormones, and finally resolve the chronic symptoms that traditional medicine could not answer. How well we know. Welcome, Mikayla.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So you spent over 16 years in emergency medicine and trauma care. From the inside of that world, what made you walk away, pursue something different?
Great question. When you're working and living and breathing in that environment, and it was a very big part of my background. I met my husband working in the ER. He works for the fire department. And so that was really our world. And really it was one day where I just started questioning everything. And how are these people coming in on the worst day of their life? This didn't happen overnight. So I just started really getting curious of what is causing this heart disease, what is causing this cancer, what are causing this dis-ease within the body that we're now just treating with Band-Aids. And once my mind went there, it was no turning back.
Right.
I couldn't let it go, and I just started studying on my own. And the more and more I went down, it was just like the lights turning on to all my questions and everything I was feeling inside. And there was no looking back from that, to be completely honest. And everything I just started to question everything and doing my own research, and ultimately led me to pursuing different certifications and opening up my own business. And it's been a wild ride, but amazing. And I wouldn't have done it any other way.
So, all right. So you've got 16 years. Well, no, it's 16 years. So how many years has it been since you made the pivot?
I've had my own business for 2 years now, going on
Okay.
3 years. And yeah, it's been great. I slowly transitioned, and now my business is thriving and making a difference. And my target demographic is moms. I'm 41, and you tend to be patient zero as well. And that was also part of my story while I was working in the ER. And my husband, he works for the fire department, like I mentioned, and his schedule's crazy. We're in Northern California, so we deal with a lot of wildfires, and his department does a lot of out of county assignments. So he's gone a lot. He's, high stress job. Then I was working high stress job. We got married. We had 3 wonderful children. I kept working. And at one point I was working night shift to, spend more time with my kids. And that's when I started really experiencing my own symptoms. And this was right before my light bulb moment. So I did what all my other clients did. I go to my primary care, I go to my OB/GYN, and I was young, so I had some resilience. I had all my kids in my young 20s, got married young. So I had, youth on my side, but after so many things, your body will be depleted, just living that lifestyle. So I go to my doctor and, I don't feel good. I'm having anxiety. I've never had anxiety before. I'm gaining weight, all these things. And no joke, he looked at me and said, "Oh, you sound like my wife." And that was it.
Yeah,
And
I
I
know.
just was like,
I know the feeling.
yeah. And I just,
It's like, what?
sitting there with my baby on my hip, like, like super confused. And then he offered me antidepressants. And again, at that point, I was, still drinking the Kool-Aid, so to say. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe this will help. Well, then I gained even more weight. Then my libido totally tanked, and that's
Right.
affecting your relationship. And then, I'm just kind of a zombie. I'm like, well, this isn't working, so that's when I was like, I'm a go-getter, and if something's not working, we got to try something else. So that unfortunate event led to me doing my own research and just studying and, first healing myself. I got connected with some really great functional medicine and naturopath practitioners. And, I had parasites, my adrenals were fried, total leaky gut, nutrient depleted. So once I started putting all that back together, I came back to life, you know.
Right. Yeah. The body's
Um,
amazing. The body's amazing if you give it what it needs.
we were
As
created.
long as
Yep.
you haven't, there is such a thing as too much water over the dam.
Yes.
It
Yes.
is. I talk to a lot of people that they literally don't have enough lifetime bring back. Even though
Yes.
the body starts. Oh, finally,
Yeah.
you're giving me what I need. Oh my God, but it takes time. It took time to get that way.
Totally.
Most people
Yep.
don't want to give it the time to feel better again, but
Yep.
you don't have any choice. You either do or you don't. And those that
Yep.
don't, and we both know there's plenty of people that aren't willing to do what they have to do.
And I
Even
think
even if
that's
they
one
even
of,
if they do have time, they
yes,
just they don't want to change. People don't
I
want.
know. And that, as being a healer is probably one of the most frustrating conversations I'll have with
It
people or
it is.
loved ones. I do consult calls before I work with someone just to make sure we're a right fit and we're not wasting each other's time and energy,
Right.
money.
Exactly.
And when I'm on the phone with someone, knowing like I can transform your life, give me 4 to 6 months, and there's that resistance.
Yeah,
And
like
that is just,
well, did you say weeks? Did
yes,
you did you say
yes,
weeks? You didn't really
yes,
say months, did you?
yes,
You
yes.
know, yeah, I know. It's
But like you said, it's been decades.
yeah.
So,
So you work
so
specifically with women dealing with fatigue, hormonal imbalances, and symptoms that the
yes.
doctors can't explain. What's the most common root cause you find hiding beneath those complaints?
I always tell my clients that we got to look upstream, and looking upstream it's going to be nervous system and gut health. If you are stuck in a fight or flight, then you're not getting into your parasympathetic, your rest and digest. And so no matter how well you're clean eating, you're not going to be absorbing those nutrients that your body really needs. So I definitely think nervous system support is a big one. And then the other thing that's really big is an inner healing approach. So, knowing your worth, your identity, and your value, those are big things that we go into as well. Because if you don't feel that you are worthy of being well, if you don't want to really be well and do the work and, have the hard, I ask them, have the hard conversation, do you want to be well? With love, what you're doing isn't working. So we need to do something else. So that buy-in, those are big. Those would be like my top three.
So most people have had standard blood work done and have been told everything looks normal, yet
Yeah.
they feel terrible.
Yes.
How does functional lab testing see things differently, and why does it matter so much in your process?
Well, we do things differently because we want optimal. We don't want regular. For instance, When I went to my doctor and was feeling terrible, my TSH, so my thyroid stimulating hormone, it was at a 4.5. That was my medical provider's high end of normal. Well, that is way off of optimal. Optimal should be
Right.
about 1.5 or 2, depending on the individual. So we go for optimal. We're not putting you in this big wide range of, you're half a point off from you know, something else needing treatment, so to say. So we look for optimal. And we're looking at more root cause labs. So we're going to be testing your cortisol. We're going to be testing a hair tissue mineral analysis test, looking at your minerals, which I know you're a big fan of. We're going to be looking at your detox pathways. I really like the organic acid test. So it's a simple urine test where now we're looking at 76 biomarkers that no one's ever heard of, or their doctor probably doesn't even know of. But we're looking at your gut health. Do we see patterns of mold exposure in the past? That's a big one that's very underdiagnosed as, mycotoxins. And then, bacteria overgrowth, yeast, candida overgrowth. Looking at your vitamins. Are you getting enough B vitamins? What's your glutathione look like? So we're looking underneath what's, you know, your physician would be looking at the blood work, and we're looking at what's causing that blood work to shift in either direction.
Yeah, the so-called normal range
Yeah.
is full of people who, hey doc, I feel like crap, and the doc
Yep.
says, well, you're in the normal range. It's like,
Yep.
well, you mean it's normal to run around feeling like crap, but yet,
Yeah.
my blood is, yeah, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. It's wild.
So you also use muscle wet testing in your practice, something many listeners may not be familiar with. Can you explain what that is and how it informs your work?
Yeah. So we do some muscle testing, and, I am on the spiritual faith level, I'm a Christian. And I do believe that, we were created to heal, and we have the ability inside us to, whether it be, I believe it's like the Holy Spirit, or, you can believe whatever you believe. But I do believe that, you know, our body can talk to us. Our symptoms are messengers. It's our body's always trying to get our attention. And something we do with muscle testing is, there's different points on the body that I can test that you directly to relate to your adrenals, your digestion, some mineral deficiencies. So I have the client lay down and then I lift up their arm. And if I hit a certain point in their body and I get a strong response, that's good. If I get a weak response, that means they have a weakness in that space. This works really good for like a starting point for clients if they're just like, they're so overwhelmed that they can't even, pinpoint what's going on. I like to refer to it kind of as like a rushing woman syndrome. I think that's even, out there where there's just so much going on. Like we need to just go in and, kind of calm the system down before we, do any work. But muscle testing is great. We can also use it with certain supplements as well to see how your body's reacting to putting that supplement on your body. And it's really beautiful the way that the body can speak to you in those moments.
So yeah, I believe in muscle testing. I believe that it works. The only downside is the subjectivity.
Yeah.
You just can't rule the subjectivity. You can't
Yep.
rule out the practitioner's
Exactly.
involvement. So that's why I'm glad to hear that you use, other testing like,
Yep.
what we we did a lot of that kind of thing early on. I had a wellness clinic for about 20 years. And one of the things that I was lucky enough to find out about in 1975, which is what got me into this whole world, was that somebody gave me a little 80-page booklet talking about this guy. His name was Dr. Reams, and he was the go-to guy in the Southeast United States for soil, for crops, golf courses, and whatever. And he transitioned into wellness, ended up replacing soil. This basically the same test, but he replaced soil with urine and saliva. So now, just like you said, the body is talking to us
Yep.
through chemistry.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so
And
cool.
yeah, so there's, wonderful, correlation there. So there seems to be a deep connection between gut health and hormones.
Yes.
Can you walk us through that link and why healing the gut often has to come first?
Yeah, absolutely. So your hormones, I have this beautiful handout I hand my clients and show them when we're talking is, your sex hormones are way downstream and way upstream. We start with your gut. We start specifically with B vitamins. So again, now it's, are you nutritionally taking in the right nutrition? And then number two, are you able to absorb that nutrition that way downstream your sex hormones actually need? So big connection there. And then the next step is going to be your adrenal glands. So there's this thing called the cortisol steal or the pregnenolone steal. It's where if you are stuck in that fight or flight nervous system that we were talking about, so that's, you're wired and tired and, panicked and anxious and all those things, that is your adrenal glands on overdrive. That is your cortisol. And when you are in that nervous system, your body is not going to be thinking about having sex, producing a baby, like anything reproductive. It is on the survival mode. That is your sympathetic nervous system. So our bodies are so smart that they actually divert the nutrients down to your adrenal glands. So that's the other piece. So it's this trickle down, and hormones are way down, that oftentimes these hormones, these messengers, they don't get fueled. They don't get the nutrients they need. They don't get the nervous system support they need. And then you go to your doctor and they say, "Oh, you have perimenopause." They're actually giving this as a diagnosis now, which is wild. And I'm like, no, like, yes, your hormones are naturally going to shift. This has been happening for thousands and thousands of years. What's not normal is that you're nutrient depleted, you never rest, you eat crappy food, you don't sleep. Like, that's what's not normal.
Right.
So,
Right. So
um,
how much of your normal process is being inflated
exactly.
by what you're doing wrong?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And we have it down to a science where I help clients in a program model. So it's one price, it's all inclusive. So you're with me for 4 to 6 months. All your lab testing is included, all your protocols are included. Again, like the mind body. So we have mindset stuff, we have forgiveness exercise, bitterness exercises, is all these things, including the labs and the protocols, right? So the way we work is they do their labs first. While their labs are processing, because it takes about 3 weeks, we do a liver detox. And liver is also big deal for hormones. If you're
Right.
having all this excess estrogen, your liver needs to process that. Well, if your liver is overloaded by all the other toxins that your body's trying to fight, you're not going to be, getting rid of that estrogen properly. So I have women who come to me complaining with poor cycles, all these hormonal symptoms. And by the time they get done with their 2 to 3 week liver detox, their next cycle is 90% better. And we haven't even got the labs yet, you
Right.
know?
Exactly.
So
The body
it,
is amazing.
you're
You
like,
give
oh
it,
my gosh.
everybody's different,
Yeah.
but it's amazing. Like, I'll give people, a list of 20 things. All right. And maybe they do five of them.
Yep.
Right. But the results are already there,
Yep.
in other words, because the body, it's amazing what the
Yep.
body starts doing. Just if you just start treating it right, just treat
Yep.
it right. You know,
Yep. And I give the clients a analogy of the rain barrel. I learned it from my mentor of, you have your body's this rain barrel, and when it starts to overflow, that's when you have your symptoms. So, what's filling the rain barrel is what we want to find out, because everyone wants answers. They go to their normal doctor for answers. So we want to give them answers. We want to give them that education. And so a little bit of that rain barrel, yes, there's some genetics, but genetics can be turned on and off by your lifestyle. We know that now.
that's right.
And I always tell them about this study. It was, I think it's Dr. McDougall or something years ago, but they're turning on and off breast cancer genes in rats by how much dairy they were eating. Like literally
Wow.
growing and
Wow.
shrinking tumors in rats. And like that is,
Interesting.
and there was a 15% threshold that is very interesting. And so I'm like, you can turn on and off those genes. So okay, you don't have great genes, like let's make sure they stay off by that lifestyle and environment. So a large portion of that rain barrel is your lifestyle and environment. So we're talking sleep, we're talking relationships, your stress management, all the way to your heavy metals, other toxins that you may have, like the mycotoxins we talked about, nutrient deficiencies, obviously your nutrition, protein, fat intake, and then your gut health, your hormones. So that's that big, big, large portion. And then the very top eight, is going to be triggers. It's going to be life events. So the first appointment with people, we sit down and we do a timeline of their life together, and they're always shocked. It's always emotional. There's always tears. I'm like, tears are healing, but people don't realize, oh, when your migraines started happening with a teenager, yeah, that was the same time you got abused, or that was the same times your parents got divorced, or oh, you started, your face started breaking out. Oh, that was like right after you got married. So not all triggers are bad. They can be good, but it's drawing a lot of stress. And then if your rain barrel's full when that trigger happens, you have no bandwidth, you have no reserves. So then the
Right.
symptoms just start coming. And once you're at capacity, now every time a new trigger comes, you're going to have a new symptom. And you can literally see on the timeline all these symptoms just compiling, for 30, 40 years. And now we're here today, and they just feel like crap, as they should, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah. So we go in, with the testing, and my job is to identify the toxins, the deficiencies, and the gut imbalances. And then one by one, we lower that threshold so that when a trigger does come, their body has some bandwidth.
Right.
They won't get another symptom.
Right. Yeah. That relates a lot to a tool that we use that we call the memgram chart. This urine and saliva test is really what led us into this when we found out that people would only get so well. We quantify everything. Everything's numbers.
Yeah.
Everything we do is numbers, so we can easily tell, are we getting better, are we staying the same, or are we getting worse? So one of the things that we noticed is that people would only get so well. They would come up, maybe, a thing that we calculate is the metabolism efficiency, the urine and saliva test that we call, it's called the BIA, biological immunity
Yeah.
analysis. And one of the main things that we calculate very first is how well you're converting food into energy, because just like you said, that's where it all begins. The
Yep.
gut, how well are we doing? 75% being the minimum acceptable, and that's still pretty bad. And then whatever, a lot of people come in 50s, 40s, and if they're down in the 40s, then, they really have issues. They're probably already carrying some kind of diagnosis around or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, people would only get so well. And what we figured out, this was really in the 80s, we figured out that the body is not the first domino. Just like you said, the body is your mind made visible.
Yep. I
And so
totally believe that.
therefore, where if we don't deal with the feed, we can fix a lot of things, naturally, through nutrition and diet and counseling, we can fix a lot of things. But if we don't stop the feed,
Yes.
it, as you know, a few months later, we're right back into the same old, same old. And this memgram chart allows us to calculate what the plan against this person's life is, and when did it start, and what are
Yeah.
the ages, of each of their traumas.
Yep.
And we can even describe the traumas to them to help them, relate. Then comes the process of untying the knot in the reverse order in which it became tied.
Yep.
So what you're saying is so true. And that is, if, it's where the term holistic really came from,
Yeah.
except it was still based on feelings.
Yep.
Feelings are good,
True.
but they're not always that helpful for specific diagnosing, so to speak. So one
Yep.
of the things that we talk about in the show is make truth your authority.
I
Don't
like
make
that.
authority your truth.
I
As
like that.
someone who left the hospital system to forge your own path, what does that idea mean to you personally?
Make truth your authority. I think that
How do we know? How do we know what's true?
I think it goes back. to, you know, I'm going to backpedal for a second because this is related. When I was in my hard season and I was kind of exploring my faith again, and I asked God, like, what do you want me doing? Like, I was working night shift, I was unhappy, three little kids. And He goes, I want you to bring truth and life to those who are lost. And that always stood with me. And then as I did my own healing, undoing the layers and, putting the pieces together, when I was ready to start my company, it's legally called Truth and Life Industries. And my DBA is Modern Holistic Wellness. But I think to have a life that is purposeful, that is rooted in truth, which means rooted in goodness, rooted in destiny, that only comes with taking care of yourself and being well.
Right. Exactly. You're the
I,
vessel,
exactly.
and how you treat that.
Yep.
In other words, we've proven, both of us would agree, I think, that every disease has to have its certain environment
Yep.
in order to grow.
Yep.
So you can treat the disease as the enemy and try to
Yes.
make it go away and suppress it and blah, 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 and, through the pharmaceutical route, blah, 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 cut, burn, and poison, if it gets bad enough, is
Yep.
really sometimes the only alternative because there's
Yep.
too much water over the dam. Or
Yep.
we can be looking at it and say, like you said in the very beginning, why?
Why?
Why is this
Yep.
here? I was always a why person. That's what got
Yep.
me into this whole thing. Is why when I saw this urine and saliva test, I'm thinking, wow, there's the why.
There's the
I don't
why.
have to, I don't care about the name. I don't care what the person has. They
Yep.
have it because this is all messed up.
Yep.
Let's
And
fix
and
this,
there's
and the body goes to work and, heals it. So yeah,
there's so much education. There's so many studies now. If you need studies versus just feeling, wow, I feel better. You know what I mean? There's just so
I
much
know,
evidence backing it up now. And, if you really step back, it's like, wow, the world's trying to poison us and kill us. You have to,
well, exactly.
you have to,
You're right. It's the
yeah,
dark side.
it is. It
It's
is
the dark
100%.
side. And so we can either accept it and go along with it and do it,
Yep.
and let authority be our truth.
Yep.
And they were basically led to slaughter,
Yep.
or we
Yep.
can wake up and live.
But another interesting thing is, I see a lot of people who have been failed or injured or hurt by that system. And the first thing I tell them to do, I said, you need to forgive those people and you need to bless those
Exactly.
people because
I mean,
you
they're
carrying
doing
all
what they've
that
been
bitter,
trained to do.
they are, they're
And most of them do it pretty good.
totally, totally. But you carrying all that bitterness and anger, that's going to fuel whatever inflammation
Exactly.
is inside of you. So we do a lot of, I mean, that's like part of the first things we do with people
Yeah.
is let's
Yeah.
let's
I
let's
mean,
clean
'cause, I
all
mean,
that out.
stress is
Yeah.
a huge player. I mean,
Yep.
one of the things I love about the BIA that we do is that one of the numbers in there is what we call the stress number. It tells us
Mm,
whether or not this body chemistry is emotionally based or is it totally physically based? And so we can begin the process of communicating this to the person. I
yeah.
mean, some people just they don't want to hear,
Right.
just give me a diet, doc,
Right.
which is a lot like just give me a pill.
Right.
Just give me a
I
pill.
see that. And I
Yeah,
see a lot of people, and then I warn people about this, like, hey, if you're working with someone in alternative healthcare, make sure they're not just doing a Band-Aid model. Because a lot of times they're just switched over to functional medicine, but now they're just giving you supplements versus
exactly. Right. Yeah.
actual root cause, the
Right.
mind, body,
Yeah.
spirit
We're still treating
is,
symptoms.
yeah,
So,
exactly.
what's one thing you wish every woman knew about her own health that most doctors will never tell you?
Ooh, that's a good question. One thing I wish that you need to eat breakfast.
Okay, there you go.
Very
Yeah,
simple, very
whatever
simple.
comes up is
Yeah,
usually the
I
best
see
one.
so many women that just aren't eating breakfast.
Or
And
they're eating a bowl of Wheaties, and
exactly,
it's
you need to fuel yourself well. I, everyone is undernourished, and a lot of times, the weight, they're overweight and
right.
they're not
Yeah,
eating enough.
right.
They're
And their excuse will be There just isn't enough time.
Yep. Yeah.
That's the main excuse.
And then you go to, okay, why are you not worthy of spending 5 minutes to make yourself a good breakfast? Because you can do that. You can do it in 5 minutes. I do it every morning. You know, you have
Right.
some hard-boiled eggs ready to go. You have, I'm big into, high quality protein nutrient drinks. This, you make them on your own in a few minutes, and it doesn't have to be complicated, but it
Right.
has to be nutrient dense. And making yourself time to have breakfast is really going to set up for the whole day of, okay, now I can make time for myself to stand in the sun for 10 minutes, or now I have time, while my kids are practicing at their sport practice, like I can walk for an hour. It's this practice of, you have to make time for yourself. So
Yeah, I remember back in the 70s and 80s, there was this guy called Dr. Bernard Jensen. This guy was incredible.
heard of him.
Yeah,
I
oh
feel like
my
I may have the
God,
whole book.
buy every book this guy
Yes.
wrote. I'm telling you, buy every book. It's like unbelievable. He was a great lecturer. He would travel the world, whatever. And he used to say, eat breakfast like a king or queen,
Yep.
eat lunch like a prince or a princess, and eat dinner like a pauper.
Yep.
That was his
Yep.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
So,
agree.
so
And people get a lot of women get very confused with like the whole fasting thing too, and for your hormones, and you wake up in the morning and you're going, right? You're getting your kids ready for school, you're prepping for work
right.
and
You've 8
carpool.
hours of fasting already.
You need fuel, but you want to fast, well, eat dinner at 5 and eat breakfast at 7.
Yeah.
Doing the
Yeah.
back end.
So where can our audience go to learn more about you and your work? Let's get people in contact with you.
Yes, so my website is modernholistic.org. And then you can also find me on Instagram and the handle .co.
All right. Good. So if you could leave our listeners with one takeaway about taking control of their health, what would it be?
Your body can heal if you put it in the right environment. So I've seen it, I've witnessed it myself, but it's going to take effort, it's going to take work, but you are worth it. You're worthy. You are valuable enough to heal. So that's my takeaway.
All right, good. Well, thank you. Thank you. It was very interesting, enjoyable, loved it.
Thank you.
And
Thanks for having us.
I hope our listeners will be in contact with you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us on Common Sense Wellness for another episode. Remember, taking practical steps to understanding your health, emotionally and physically, is how we restore balance, boost energy, and thrive. See you next episode.
Thanks for listening to Common Sense Wellness with Dr. Gary Martin. To learn more about the testing and resources we discussed, or to find out how you can take charge of your own health, visit BIRI.org. You'll find valuable information, free tools, and ways to connect directly with our wellness community. That's BIRI.org. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe and share the show with someone who's ready to take their next step toward better health.